Hey, hi there. This is Coach Joan from Joan of Health, and I want to welcome you to today's presentation, which I'm going to be talking about understanding sugar and sugar substitutes. So, I want to make sure that I cover this as thoroughly as I can. So, I put together this little deck, and I hope that you guys can hear me okay and see me okay. I'm not always good with technology. But anyway, so basically what we're going to be covering is what sugar is, how it affects your body, how it affects your brain chemistry, and also your health. We're also going to touch on how the big sugar companies have actually been getting away with really harming a lot of people with some of the products and that they use and some of the marketing tactics that they do. I'm going to talk about that. And I'm also going to talk about sugar substitutes and how sugar and sugar substitutes affect our environment. All right? So here we go. So what is sugar and where does it come from? So natural sugar actually comes from the sugar cane plant. It also comes from sugar beets and it comes from corn. So in their pure form, for example, sugar beets, I put those on my salads all the time. I love them. They've got a lot of great nutritional value. Corn on the cob. I'm sure that you probably grew up eating this. Very good for you. Nothing wrong with it. Doesn't hurt your body. Doesn't make you addicted or sick. However, when we actually refine sugar, how we get refined sugar is we basically take one of those plants and we take the inner essence of it. And we refine it and we purify it either into a powder or into a heavy corn syrup. Now, when we make it into a corn syrup, it's called high fructose corn syrup. And that's in most drinks and bottled beverages. And it's very bad for you in many ways. And I'm going to talk about that in detail a little bit later. But when you take a food and you actually purify it like that, it actually turns into a drug, as far as how our bodies and our brains break it down and process it. So we're going to get into that a little bit more detail as well. But I just want you to just start to kind of ponder that as I'm talking through here. So sugar is actually added to over 74% of the foods that we see in the supermarket. And the average American consumes over 153 pounds of sugar a year. Can you believe that? In addition to that, almost 20% of our daily calories come from sugary beverages. And it's estimated that over 184,000 deaths per year are caused from drinking sodas. Yes, 184,000 deaths. So now, what about all of the other products that contain sugar, like cookies and candy and ice cream, cake, chocolate milk, yogurt, all of these foods? How many people per year die from these products? Think about that. So let's discuss, why did Americans start to eat so much sugar? I'm going to give you a little bit of background here. So over the past 50 years, we've actually been brainwashed into thinking that dietary fat causes heart attacks and obesity. And they've brainwashed into believing that sugar is nothing more than empty, harmless calories. And you know what? That's not true. Sugar causes inflammation, weight gain, belly fat. It also causes strokes, heart attacks, and cancer. And many people actually swapped out saturated fat and replaced it with sugar. So, why do we eat so much sugar? Now, the World Health Organization and the American Heart Association, they're telling us to decrease our sugar intake to 10% or less. How is that possible when 74% of the supermarkets are lined with so much sugar? And the federal government dietary guidelines also convinced us to replace scrambled eggs and butter with strawberry yogurt, which has the same amount of sugar as a standard soda pop does. Can you relate to that? Now, the first federal dietary guidelines that came out in 1980 warned against eating fat because they said that it causes high cholesterol, but they never mentioned the sugar impact. And they recommended us to eat less sugar because of tooth decay, right? That's why we're always, brushing our teeth. So the guidelines declared that sugar has nothing to do with type 2 diabetes or heart disease. And you know what? They were dead wrong. Absolutely, positively dead wrong. So now we've got a whole nation thinking, in the back of their heads, it's better to have sugar than fat, right? So we were told it was better to eat sugar than fat because sugar contained less calories. This again was dead wrong. They misplaced the blame for obesity and health-related problems on fat. So the U.S. government basically gave the food industry a license to flood our food supply with several forms of sugar. So Americans gave up fat and they got hooked on sugar. That's basically what happened. So here's a study. In 2016, a group of scientists that was funded by Coke, Pepsi, Kraft, Hershey, and Mars, and many other multinational junk food makers, they published a high-profile paper called the Annals of Internal Medicine, calling the recommendations to reduce sugar intake untrustworthy and unscientific. Can you believe this? Is this nonsense? But you know what? I'm sure you're not surprised. This is the same tactics that the tobacco companies have used for all these years. Remember when it was okay to smoke cigarettes, that they weren't bad for you? Same thing going on with big sugar companies. So, the confectionery and beverage industries and their scientific studies, they continue to mislead the public about the dangers of sugar. And in 2015, the world's largest producer of sugary beverages, Coca-Cola, which you guys all know about, was caught paying scientists millions of dollars to downplay the link between soda and obesity. And candy companies have been exposed for paying and employing scientists to publish studies suggesting that kids who eat candy weigh less than kids that don't. You know what? I totally get it. I used to work for one of those very big candy companies. And I used to have the account of the Los Angeles Unified School District. And I was told that I needed to get our Snickers bars into the food programs in the schools. And you know how I did it? I was armed with all kinds of marketing data that showed how the peanuts were so nutritious. And I needed to call on the school food, the food service directors, and I would give them all this data showing that they were good for you. But you know what the bottom line was that? I would say, listen, if we don't put it into, if we don't put it in the school lunch program, at lunchtime they're just going to go out and buy it somewhere else. So you might as well make the money. So you know what? They brought candy into the school lunch programs. Pretty tricky, huh? So Big Sugar wants to hide the truth about its products. And there's overwhelming scientific consensus that sugar consumption is the driving force behind the obesity epidemic. And sugar calories are deadly calories. And if anybody tells you otherwise, they're either misinformed and they're basically lying to you. They're not telling you the truth. It's no longer a secret that sugar is very bad for you. So, for most of human existence, sugar was very rare. And it came onto the scene in the 1700s, and it was very expensive, and only rich and royal people could afford it. But, we're wired to desire easy access to energy that glucose provides. But it's supposed to be from fresh foods or natural sweeteners like honey or molasses or things like that. But our brains are not smart enough to understand that refined sugar and sweets is killing us. It truly is. Our brains don't know the difference. We have to educate them. We have to teach them no. We have to learn how to say no to it. So, consuming sugar It speeds up the aging process. It damages the liver like alcohol does. And fatty liver from sugar consumption is the #1 cause of liver disease. So sugar is addictive, and millions of people struggle to give up cakes and cookies and ice cream and pie and candy and sweets and beverages. It alters your brain chemistry and causes you to crave more. It causes binge eating and insatiable eating. It messes with your brain chemistry. You don't get the message to stop eating. Your brain thinks you're starving, so you keep eating and getting sicker and fatter. And remember earlier when I was relating it to cocaine or heroin? You know, when you process the sugar, that's exactly what the drugs do, is they keep you wanting to come back for more and more and more. And this is what sugar's doing. You need to really understand this. So once again, causes obesity and diabetes and heart disease and cancer and dementia and strokes and depression. Our bodies are just not designed to handle sugar. They never have been and they never will be. So now I'm going to talk a little bit about high fructose corn syrup. It's actually toxic. It's in over 40% of sweet foods and beverages. It processes through the liver as well, causing inflammation and leaky gut. And so what leaky gut is actually, there's little holes in your intestines. And when this causes these little, cuts, it causes your gut, it causes it to leak. And so your poop and food particles leak into your bloodstream, causing all kinds of problems. It's very, very serious. So here's a lot of foods that have high fructose corn syrup in it. So I'm going to give you a little bit more information than from the previous slide. So high fructose corn syrup is extremely soluble, and it mixes well with foods. It's cheap to produce, it's sweet, and it's easy to store, which is why a lot of the food companies use it. In addition to that, the government gives a huge subsidy on high fructose corn syrup, so it's very, very cheap. It's used in everything from bread to pasta sauces to bacon to beer, as well as health products like protein bars and natural sodas. It's what Coke and Pepsi and all of the beverage companies use to sweeten their products. But unlike natural sugars, when you're eating foods or drinking beverages with high fructose corn syrup, it blocks your brain's natural ability to tell if you're full or not. So basically, when you're drinking this, your brain thinks you're starving, and so you never know when you're full. So you keep eating and getting sicker and fatter. That's exactly what it does. So in addition to that, the high fructose corn syrup is believed to increase blood fats more than the same amount of table sugar, causing a rise in bad cholesterol, which is also linked to heart disease. So, yeah, not good, huh? So it's time to quit sugar. As soon as you stop eating sugar, your health starts to improve, you start to feel better, your skin looks really good, your blood pressure and cholesterol and triglycerides drop, your fasting blood sugar and insulin levels improve, you lose weight, your depression and compulsive behaviors start to go away. These are all reasons to quit sugar. And if you need help, that's what I'm here for. And at the end of this presentation, I'm going to give you some more information on how you can set up a weight loss coaching call with me. All right, so now I'm going to talk about sugar sweeteners. So, sugar substitutes or sugar sweeteners, there's about 5 artificial sweeteners that actually have FDA approval. Sweet and Low, which is saccharin, Sweet 1, NutraSweet, and Equal, which is aspartame, and Splenda, which is sucralose. I'm sure that you've seen all of these and probably used all of them. They're everywhere in all restaurants. So now, why are sugar substitutes bad for you? They increase heart disease, they're carcinogenic. In animal studies, they destroy your gut flora. I don't know if you remember my presentation on healthy digestion, but it messes up the balance between the good bacteria and the bad bacteria. It causes glucose intolerance. It also contains excitotoxins, which damage the neurons in your body. Very bad. So think about this. Something that just tastes sweet but contains 0 calories, it may sound like the perfect food, right? You can have your cake and eat it too, so to speak. but it's not. So when you eat something sweet and it's not accompanied by a lot of calories, what happens is that this confuses the brain. And so your brain senses that it's, sugar is coming on, but if it's not accompanied by glucose and fructose, once again, your brain's confused, so it tries to correct it. So what your brain then does is it makes you hungrier as a result because it wants you to eat some food. So you end up eating more food and getting fatter and sicker. And those, that addictive behavior happens and you can't stop eating. This is what's going on. Once again, sugar substitutes make you fat. They cause hyperactivity, insomnia, and they can make you glucose intolerant. A lot of my clients that have diabetes, they're using all kinds of sugar substitutes. That's what's, it's really harming you. They're poison and toxic to your body and your brain chemistry. So, pretty intense, huh? Are you still with me? I hope you are. We're going to help you out here. So I want to go a little bit briefly over sugar in the environment. So the sugar production from sugar mills, it actually pollutes our waterways and creates a toxic environment for our aquatic life. And it requires massive amounts of pesticides, which is very hazardous for the farm workers, wildlife, and you, the consumer, right? And high fructose corn syrup. Growing corn, it depletes our soils of nutrients. Milling and then chemically transforming corn into high fructose corn syrup is a very energy intensive process. It requires more fertilizers and insecticides than producing other crops. Herbicides and pesticides also pollute the waterways, which can create dead zones. This is serious. The refining process also contains mercury. So a lot of people that get mercury poison, this is what it's from. This is what it's from. So now we're going to talk about Splenda. I'm sure you've all seen this yellow sweetener and how this specifically affects our environment. So first of all, it's very bad for the rivers and the oceans. Your body can only absorb 10% of the sucralose. So the rest is actually flushed down the toilet and it makes its way into our waterways. It's not regulated by the EPA, so we have no idea what the buildup is doing to our fish and marine life. So I've given you a lot of heavy stuff. I've gone over what sugar does to your body, what the refining process is all about. I talked about high fructose corn syrup. I talked about, how our government and the big food companies and big sugar companies, know that they're poisoning us and hurting us. So I know you need help, and I want you to book a call with me today. You can click on the link www.joanofhealth.com. Apply, joanofhealth.com. Apply today for a breakthrough coaching session with me. I promise you, you will love it. You're going to actually learn something. It'll be the best time that you spend regarding your health. All right? Thank you guys for listening. I hope that you enjoyed this, and if you have any questions, go ahead and post them in the Facebook group. All right? Have a great day, and I'll see you soon. Bye-bye.